We're going into a new area today. We're beginning the Constitution of the United States. Most had a little bit on the Constitution in the 8th grade. Did any of you have anything on the Constitution after the 8th grade? About a third of the class. Good. Good. Were you ever actually asked to read the entire Constitution in your lifetime? No one. Guess what? Your parents weren't either, nor were your grandparents. And so it's not surprising that we're not well informed on the Constitution. 2 years ago, I guess it'd be 3 now, maybe 4, the nation was astounded to learn from a survey conducted of high school seniors in Oklahoma that 23% could not identify the first president of the United States. But wait, their parents apparently aren't too bright either. In a survey conducted earlier this year by Newsweek magazine of a random sampling of 1,000 adult Americans summarized by Andrew Romano, 29% could not identify the name of the current Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden. 9% could not correctly answer what ocean is on the west coast of the United States, the Pacific. 80% did not know who was president during World War I, Woodrow Wilson, and 40% did not know who we fought in World War II, Germany, Italy, and Japan. With respect to individuals, 59% could not identify what Susan B. Anthony did. She was a women's rights activist, and 23% were ignorant of what Martin Luther King Jr. did, civil rights activist. It gets worse. 73% did not know what the main concern of the United States was during the Cold War, the spread of socialism. The Cold War ended in 1989, only 22 years ago. I guess it'd be 24 years ago now. So most adults lived through it. This makes the ignorance here even more blatant and inexcusable. Their most startling conclusion is that 38% of American adults would not qualify to be citizens of their own country were they required to pass the same test for U.S. citizenship required of non-citizens. For me, what the sampling showed of our ignorance of the Constitution was especially appalling. Knowledge of it and its imposed limitations on the federal government are absolutely critical to preserving our liberty. So how did the adults do? Amazingly, a third could not identify the date of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776, and 2/3, 63%, could not identify what happened at the Constitutional Convention, the writing of the Constitution. Only 74% of Americans could identify the first 3 words of the Constitution, "We the people." Sadly, 61% did not know how long a U.S. Senator served, 6 years. And 81% could not identify a single power of the federal government noted in the Constitution. May our founders and others who risked their lives for this freedom forgive us for our ignorance. Unbelievably, 27% did not know who was in charge of the executive branch of the government, the president. Nor did 42% know who would next be in charge should both the president and vice president be unable to serve, the Speaker of the House. A whopping 63% did not know the number of justices on the Supreme Court, 9. 70% were unable to answer, what is the supreme law of the land? The Constitution. With respect to the difficult 3-year struggle to get passage of the U.S. Constitution, 88% could not identify even one of the 3 authors of the Federalist Papers making ratification possible: James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay. 43% did not know what we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and 94% did not know how many amendments the Constitution has: 27. Some 67% could not identify the economic system in the United States: free enterprise. The study concluded that we are imperiled by our ignorance. How can anyone reason otherwise? As a nation, are we constitutionally illiterate? Too bad the study was not done on the 535 members of Congress or on the executive branch. Would we find a third of them not qualified to be citizens of their own country as well? Given their neglect in preserving this document as designed by the founders, I think so. What does it matter? Who cares? I have some samplings of Time and Newsweek, most notably noted for being on the left side of the political spectrum, and they're showing their concern about your future. Time magazine, August 22, 2011, the decline and fall of Europe. That's unsettling, but that's not us, so it doesn't matter. But if they're declining and following, and we're trying really, really hard to copy them, won't we decline too? And why would we want to copy Europe when we're the only philosophy in the history of the world that pretty much made everybody who wanted to work middle class? Here's another one. How great powers fall, December 7, 2009, and it shows our capital upside down. And basically there's steep debt, slow growth, and high spending kill empires, and America could be next. Certainly that isn't going to make you feel easier, because you're going to be around for another 60 years, maybe 70. So it will matter to you whether we fall. But when they're suggesting we might fall too, that's pretty serious. That's not just Pease saying that. Newsweek, April 13, 2009, the decline and fall of Christian America. Many might find it very interesting that there's a very, very close correlation between the Constitution and a lot of biblical law. In fact, we have founding fathers saying or having said, rather, that an unrighteous people cannot hold on to the Constitution because they won't understand the principles buried therein. John Adams, second President of the United States, said that. Oh, the case for killing Granny. What does that have to do with the Constitution? Well, we're not supposed to kill anybody in America without due process. And they have to do something pretty bad to kill them or be in the act of killing when the police come. Otherwise, they deserve a fair trial even if we have people who watch them kill somebody. And we even provide them a free lawyer not free because the taxpayer pays for it, and we provide them a jury trial, and we go to great lengths for them to prove their innocence. And that is why we can't torture you yet. You know, it'd be so much easier. We wouldn't have to have any more investigations. Just pull one nail out of your finger at a time until you confess that you did it, and we can save a lot of money. But even if somebody saw you do it, we go to great lengths to give you the benefit of the doubt. So in a free country, and in a country where the Constitution has any value at all, you will not have the case for killing Granny. It was talking about the national health care and the end of life, and grannies consume a whole lot of money. Look at your grandparents. When was the last time they were in the hospital? Probably more recently than you. You're the age group that probably don't go to the hospital very often for yourself, and that's good. But when you get past 70, you might be in there 3 times a year. You can make it 80, maybe 4 times a year. And we shouldn't have to pay for them. They've already lived their life, right? That's the argument. Let them go kindly, nicely. Why is the rest of this course really, really important to you personally? Because you are the last generation that will hold on to the Constitution if it's held on to. At least that's what Time magazine is inferring. July 4th, 2011. And it shows the Constitution shredded. 1/3 of the Constitution shredded. It's implying that it's already been shredded. Time magazine. In the magazine is, and over the Constitution is, does it still matter? Does the Constitution still matter? And inside of the magazine are things that are true. But this picture right here, to your right, shows the Constitution entirely shredded. Maybe it's time to get another one, because it doesn't work, is what Time magazine is telling us. Oh, and there's evidence that they provide. One document under siege. Here are a few things the framers did not know about. World War II, DNA, sexting, airplanes, the atom, television, Medicare, collateralized debt obligations, the germ theory of disease, miniskirts, the internal combustion engine, computers, antibiotics. Lady Gaga. People on the right and left constantly ask what the framers would say about some event that is happening today. That's true. Every word is true. The Founding Fathers didn't know about television, didn't know about Medicare, didn't know about miniskirts, didn't know about any of the things we just mentioned. So how could the Constitution be relevant? I hope the first thing you learn in this class is that it's based upon natural law and human nature, which does not change. This Constitution will be as good 1,000 years from now, or could have been in place 1,000 years ago, because man's nature has not changed. You still have prisons. In fact, if it's changed at all, it's changed to the worse, because we have more people per capita in prison. which is what we say we need to hold people who want to impose their will on others. Since the Constitution doesn't give anything to anybody, if it's followed like it says, you don't have any reason for bribery or corruption. And we've already mentioned that in this class. Special interest groups wouldn't exist. Bureaucracy wouldn't exist if you're following this document. So don't condemn the document because we have a generation that hasn't read it and tries to shove things through that aren't constitutional, and when it doesn't work, then it must be the Constitution's fault. It's designed to harness the government. The one entity that has been most responsible for the loss of freedom when it existed, or no freedom, for thousands of years. Finally, we have a group of individuals who are sitting in the room, and their basic question is, how do we keep free from excessive government? And if you study any U.S. history textbook, you have to study why we had the revolution. And it's not because we had taxation without representation. It's because we had so many government rules and regulations that we thought we weren't free anymore. Go to any chapter in any U.S. history textbook. You have to memorize the Hat Act, the Currency Act, the Molasses Act, the Sugar Act, and on and on and on acts. What was happening? Well, the government was raining down so many rules and regulations, they were saying we're not free. The irony of this is, if you use their definition of freedom, then they were at least 100 times freer than you are today when they said they didn't have freedom. So, I'm giving you a document that has life, but there is a movement out there that says we want a living document. We want one that's not so difficult to change. We want one that we can manipulate for whatever needs come about. And they say we don't have a living document. But if you understand the Constitution at all, you realize you can change the Constitution. Article 5 prescribes the formula for change you can really believe in. But you have to get others to agree with you. You can't have change by one individual, or even 536, counting the president. Change requires a lot, and that's what's so upsetting to these people who want change that's more frequent. But the change they advocate is almost always more power to themselves, and then we'll be able to take care of you better if only we have more of your money and more power. And when it doesn't work, they say, well, we just didn't get enough of your money and get enough power either. So it will work if we have more power and more money. That's always the solution. So I think it's more important that you understand the Constitution than any other generation in U.S. history, because you will be able, when you are 70, to look back and say, we lost it. Or we saved it, one or the other. You're going to be part of the problem, or you're going to be part of the solution. Yes, you as an individual, part of the problem or part of the solution. I hope you're part of the solution. I hope the rest of this course will convince you how relevant this document really is and how it can save us even today. But we're going to have to become constitutionalists. That's why I argue that I would just soon people not be liberals or conservatives, that they be constitutionalists, because we already divide into two teams that hate each other. Why do you want to start your argument with opposition? I am a constitutionalist. So the other side has to say, well, I'm not. And they don't want to be there. So if both parties would start calling themselves constitutionalists so that we have something really firm to measure them by, it would be even better.
I wanna be free. I wanna be free. I wanna be free.
You have been listening to Dr. Harold W. Pease. We hope that you have enjoyed our presentation and will visit us again very soon.